This is a Let's Talk Church Safety and Security microsode with your host, Paul Buckner. A pop quiz for your church safety team. One of the things, like as we're getting back into training as a culture, the culture within our churches and our American culture, as we're getting back into doing training and things live again, things in person again, more and more. A thing that you can do, whether you're just serving on an average Sunday with your church safety team, or you're actually at an official training, is just kind of do a little pop quiz. I used to do this to my guys until it got to the point that I would ask and they instantly knew the answer. And there's several thoughts about this that I think can be valuable. So I would say, pop quiz, what's the physical address of the church? And I think the funniest one was after I had done this with all of my safety team, I started randomly doing it to members of my board and leadership, pastor, what have you. And one of my members of leadership, I said, pop quiz. And he goes, go for it. And I said, what is the physical address of our church? And this was my last church that I was at for like 25 years. And he goes, P.O. Box. Oh, crud. What is the physical address of the church? And so if you don't know where you are and there's an emergency, you probably gonna die. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A lot of people think, oh, well, they'll just GPS my phone and they'll get the coordinates. Believe it or not, that takes more work than you think it does. And they've got to be able to do it in an emergency. And what I mean by that is they have to be able to prove that there's an emergency in many cases, in many areas. They have to prove that there's a sufficient emergency in order to do so. So you literally can be setting yourself up for failure, planning to fail. It's a scary thought. And I've started using that term in relationship to certain things, planning to fail, and that's one of them. So I would turn to my guys and on my safety team, and I would say, pop quiz, what's the physical address of the church? And it got to the point, at first, nobody knew it. And I was like, okay, in an emergency. And I actually had people go, well, you're going to handle it. You're in charge. Okay. Assume I'm dead. Murphy's Law. The most prepared person is probably going to be the first person to die. Assume I'm dead. Assume I'm not here. Some of the most prepared people when there's major emergencies are not at that emergency. Assume that I took the first round and or whatever. That I was homesick that day. Whatever. I pray not, but so whatever that looks like. Assume. What's the physical address of the church? You may need to know. What happens if I'm occupied contending with the threat? My hands are occupied, I've got them on the ground, I've got them restrained. And while I've got them restrained, I don't have a free hand to make a phone call. I can't reach a Bluetooth to hit it and whatever. I can't yell, hey Siri, whatever. That's a thing to think about. Then, if that person's occupied, let's say that there's an extreme medical situation, that there really is a physical threat to someone, be it medical, a knife, a baseball bat, a gun, and I'm contending with it, your ability to call 911 and tell them where you are, and don't assume, like my old church, it was a specific church in that, or a specific street in that town, and I remember years ago calling 911, and I said, well, we're the church on such and such street, and the lady was kind of frustrated. She's like, sir, there's four churches on that street. Well, that was a long time ago, but probably close to 20 years ago, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And it's funny, we can learn from those things, because the ability to get the exact physical location, it actually matters more than what's going on. It matters more than, is there a bad guy shooting up the place? Believe it or not, or is somebody having a heart attack? Is the building on fire? It actually matters more to be able to give the address immediately, and then they can start calculating and communicating what the threat is. The threat can be communicated after that. Remember to take those calm, even breaths. But at that time, if you're able to communicate the address, you literally have the ability to get the ball rolling. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I've done is I have placed, because the two most likely areas that are fixed locations that I am likely to face a threat at are my home and at my church. And so what I've done is I've added 911 as a contact in my phone, and the contact says 911 literally, and then when I dial it, it rotates across the screen as I'm on the call, the contact info, which is my home address followed by my church address, because in the moment, if I'm in shock and I've been hurt, I've been hit by a vehicle and I'm laying in a ditch, and I'm out in the, God forbid, I'm in my church's parking lot and I've been hit by a vehicle and nobody saw it and the person kept going, which I would hope wouldn't happen, but that'd be a perfect storm of bad stuff. If something like that has happened and I'm in danger, if I can look down at the screen and I'm on speaker or whatever, and I can say, I am at 123 Freedom Street in this city, they can go, okay, and they can get help on the way. That kind of thing is extremely critically important. So this is just one of those little gold nugget aha moments to do a pop quiz with your safety team. God bless. If you enjoyed this microsode, check out the video and audio versions of the Let's Talk Church Safety and Security podcast.